Chapter 1327. After the meeting ended, Lu Ming immediately went to see his parents, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. The people who had retreated from the Talisman Puppets sect were all settled in the 100 Beast tribe. Lu Yuntian and Li Ping were naturally overjoyed to see Lu Ming. Li Ping could not stop her tears from flowing. When the experts of the God Gate came and announced Lu Ming's death, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping naturally heard the news. It was as if they had been struck by lightning, and the two elders almost could not take it. However, they had a feeling that Lu Ming was not dead and should still be alive. Indeed, they had heard the news that Lu Ming had returned and his cultivation had reached an unbelievable level. He could stand shoulder to shoulder with the top experts of the Divine Wilderness continent. The two of them were extremely confident and excited. When Lu Ming saw that the two elders were fine, he heaved a sigh of relief. He chatted with the two elders for half a day before leaving. In a secret room, Lu Ming's main body and second body sat opposite each other. Lu Ming's main body waved his hand and various spiritual materials flew out. Fire Spirit Root, Royal Bloodstone, Earth Emperor Essence, they were all precious spiritual materials for refining the Nirvana Elixir. Lu Ming planned to let the second body refine the Nirvana Elixir. Lu Ming had already collected all the supplementary spiritual materials for the Nirvana Elixir. The most difficult to collect were the 7 main spiritual materials. When he was in the Divine Ruins continent, Lu Ming had already collected 6 of them. He was still lacking the last one, the Star Anise Mysterious Ice Grass. However, he did not expect that when he was fighting for the pure spirit body, Lu Ming would kill the purple-gold-robed elder from the sea-suppressing marshal's residence and find the Star Anise Mysterious Ice Grass in his storage ring. In this way, he had gathered all 7 main spiritual materials and could start refining the Nirvana Elixir. Ming Lian's second body waved his hand and a pill furnace appeared. Then, all the materials for the Nirvana Elixir flew towards the second body. Lu Ming's main body moved and appeared at the side. He sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to cultivate. Inscription refined the second body. His fingers danced rapidly, and endless inscriptions appeared. They wrapped around all the spiritual materials and began to refine them. A heavenly profound saint was in existence that had become a saint through the Tao of inscription. Regardless of whether it was formations, refining weapons, or refining pills, they were all extremely profound. Lu Ming's second body had obtained the inheritance of the heavenly profound saint and became a sovereign. Naturally, his refining skills were also unfathomable. Golden flames of inscription appeared, wrapping all kinds of spiritual materials and beginning to refine. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In the past 3 days, the entire Divine Wilderness continent had been shaken by 2 pieces of news. On the first day, the legendary peerless genius Lu Ming, who had died in the Godly Ruins continent, had returned. As soon as he came back, he participated in the World Academy battle. In this battle, Lu Ming displayed astonishing battle prowess. With his cultivation at the Spirit God realm, he could easily kill emperors and fight experts at the peak of the second layer of the Martial Emperor realm. As soon as the news spread, it was like a magnitude 10 earthquake, causing a huge uproar. Countless cultivators in the Divine Wilderness continent were dumbfounded. They simply could not believe it. Soon after, another piece of news was released. The Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace would form an alliance with the ancient Saint Dynasty's Xia clan in a month's time in the Holy City. At that time, they would kill Supreme Nine Yang, Bai Shijin, and the others and use their blood as a sacrifice. The news also caused a huge uproar when it was released. Some people who knew the inside story could tell that something unusual was going on. Supreme Nine Yang, Bai Shijin, and the others had a close relationship with Lu Ming. For the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xia clan to release this news at this time, it was obviously related to Lu Ming. Some people guessed that this was most likely to lure Lu Ming out to the Holy City and then kill Lu Ming. This was an open scheme, not a conspiracy. Even if the whole world knew the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xia clan's goal, Lu Ming would still go if he had to, unless he did not care about the lives of Supreme Nine Yang and the others. It seems like the Divine Wilderness continent is going to change. There will be a shocking battle in the Holy City. Some people sighed and paid attention to the situation. At this time, Lu Ming received a voice transmission saying that someone wanted to see him. Lu Ming's main body came out of the secret chamber and met the person who wanted to see him. It turned out to be Bai Qi Shua, Huan Zhen, Ji Mai, and the other geniuses of the Talisman Puppets sect. Greetings, Zongzi. When they saw Lu Ming, Huan Zhen, Bai Qi Shua, and the others, they bowed respectfully and lowered their heads. Qi Shua, Brother Huan, what are you doing? We are all friends, so there is no need to be so polite. Lu Ming waved his hand, and an invisible force lifted Huan Zhen and the others up, preventing them from bowing. The few of them had mixed feelings. They knew that Lu Ming's current cultivation level had far surpassed theirs. Among them, Huan Zhen, who had the strongest cultivation, was only a grade 7 inscription master and had not broken through to grade 8. Bai Qi Shua had obtained the inheritance of a grade 9 inscription master back then, and his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. However, he was still slightly weaker than Huan Zhen. Lu Ming, we are here to beg you. You must save Master and the others. Bai Qi Shua's eyes were filled with tears, and his expression was bleak. Sigh, Lu Ming, we are useless. We can't save Master and the others. We can only rely on you now. Huan Zhen sighed. Ever since the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xia family had formed an alliance to kill Lu Ming and the others, Huan Zhen, Bai Qi Shua, and the others had panicked. At this critical moment, they could only think of Lu Ming. Therefore, they came to find Lu Ming together. Although they knew that it would be dangerous to save Bai Shijin and the others, they had no other choice. Qi Shua, Brother Huan, don't worry. Lu Ming is indebted to the seniors. Lu Ming will definitely not let anything happen to them. Lu Ming said with a resolute gaze. Lu Ming's words seemed to be infectious, calming the anxious hearts of Bai Qi Shua and the others. Soon, Bai Qi Shua and the others bid farewell and left. Before leaving, they forgot to take a look at Lu Ming. Bai Qi Shua's heart was extremely complicated. She once had some feelings for Lu Ming. But now, the distance between her and Lu Ming was extremely far. They were people from two completely different worlds. She could only bury the slight ripple in her heart deep down. After Bai Qi Shua and the others left, Lu Ming received news that someone had come to visit him. Fatty, Tingting, Senior Demonic Sky. Out of Lu Ming's expectations, the ones who came this time were actually Fatty Kong Jin, Ruan Tingting, and the Demonic Sky Sovereign. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Ever since the end of the War of Providence, Fatty and Ruan Tingting had left with the Demonic Sky Sovereign to cultivate. There had been no news of them for many years. Lu Ming did not expect that Fatty and the others would come here to look for him. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, long time no see. I really missed you. Upon seeing Lu Ming, the Fatty laughed heartily and gave Lu Ming a bear hug right away. Fatty, your figure has become more voluptuous. Lu Ming said with a smile. Fatty's figure was indeed fatter than before. Huh. Fatty laughed awkwardly. Lu Ming, you're incredible now. You can even kill an emperor. The gap between us is getting bigger and bigger. Fatty quickly changed the topic. You're not bad either. Lu Ming punched Fatty. After not seeing him for a few years, Fatty's progress was also great. He had already reached the 5th level of the Spirit God realm. It should be noted that Fatty had only awakened an 8th divine bloodline. Then, Lu Ming greeted Ruan Tingting and the Demonic Sky Sovereign. By the way, Fatty, where have you been all these years? Chapter 1328. We followed Master and went overseas. Then, Fatty roughly talked about his experiences over the years. Back then, after the Battle of Providence ended, they followed the Demonic Sky Divine Emperor to cultivate overseas. Fatty had obtained some fortuitous encounters in the Battle of Providence. In addition, he also had some fortuitous encounters overseas. Over the years, his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the 5th level of the Spirit God realm. His speed of improvement was faster than many geniuses who had awakened the 9th level of the Divine Realm. Even Ruantingting had reached the peak of the spirit embryo realm. This time, when they returned, they discovered that the divine wilderness continent had changed beyond recognition. Moreover, they had also heard news about Lu Ming and the alliance between the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xia clan. They deduced that Lu Ming would definitely fight against the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xia clan. Therefore, they rushed over to help Lu Ming. Lu Ming was quite touched. He immediately arranged for Fatty, the demonic Sky Divine Emperor, and the others to stay. With the addition of the demonic Sky Divine Emperor, there was another Divine Emperor on their side, which was also a great help. Then, Lu Ming's main body returned to the secret alchemy room. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. The Nirvana pills were finally about to be refined successfully. Lu Ming's main body ended his cultivation and opened his eyes. A rich medicinal fragrance came from the alchemy furnace. Open! After a while, the second body shouted softly. The alchemy furnace opened, and an even richer medicinal fragrance came out. Swoosh! 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 The moment the alchemy furnace opened, 9 milky white rays of light flew out from the furnace. Collect! The second body waved his hand, and dense inscriptions appeared in the sky, wrapping around the 9 rays of light. Within the light, there were 9 milky white pills with strange patterns on them. The pills jumped in the inscriptions as if they had spirituality. The second body took out a jade bottle and put away all 9 pills. Success! The Nirvana pills were refined successfully. Lu Ming was overjoyed to obtain a total of 9 Nirvana pills. Although the Nirvana pills were useless to him, they were priceless treasures to other cultivators who had not awakened the 9th level of the Divine Realm bloodline. Whoosh! The second body entered the glabella of the main body and disappeared. Lu Ming put away the Nirvana pills and left the secret chamber. Not long after, Lu Ming invited Yan Kuangtu and Fatty Kong Jin to his residence. Lu Ming, do you have any good news for me? The fat guy's small eyes rolled around. Lu Ming smiled. After not seeing him for a few years, this fellow's conduct hadn't changed at all. This time, there is indeed something good. Lu Ming let out a smile as a jade bottle appeared. 2 Nirvana pills flew out from the bottle toward the Fatty and Yan Kuangtu respectively. As soon as the 2 of them smelled the medicinal fragrance emitted by the Nirvana pill, they knew that it was definitely not an ordinary pill. They quickly wrapped it in their true essence and held it in their hands. Lu Ming, what kind of medicinal pill is this? Yan Kuangtu asked curiously. This pill is known as the Nirvana pill. After consuming it, one's bloodline will undergo nirvana, and there is a chance that it will raise one's bloodline by 1 or even 2 levels. Lu Ming explained. What? Yan Kuangtu and Fatty were completely stunned. It could actually allow one's bloodline to undergo nirvana and raise its level. This is too heaven-defying, isn't it? Both of their hearts began to thump wildly. Both of their bloodlines were at level 8 Divine Realm. Although it seemed very advanced, it wasn't perfect. A level 9 Divine Realm bloodline was the perfect bloodline. In the Yuan continent, the minimum requirement for recruiting disciples was to awaken a level 9 Divine Realm bloodline. The 2 of them naturally desired a level 9 Divine Realm bloodline. However, a bloodline was innate. Unless one awakened the heaven-defying 9 Dragons bloodline like Lu Ming, it would be difficult to raise it. But now, the medicinal pills in their hands were able to strengthen their bloodline. Their breathing became heavy. Lu Ming, this medicinal pill is too precious. Yan Kuangtu took a deep breath and calmed down first. He looked at Lu Ming and said, Brother Yan, just take it. The Nirvana pill will be of great use to you. Lu Ming said with a smile. All right then. Yan Kuangtu wasn't a wishy-washy person. He immediately took it. Kong Jin didn't stand on ceremony either. Most importantly, the Nirvana pill was too useful for them. Once their bloodline reached level 9 Divine Realm, it wouldn't be difficult for them to break through to the Emperor Realm. There were only 9 Nirvana pills. Lu Ming planned to give them to Yan Kuangtu and Fatty for the time being because their bloodline was closest to level 9 divine realm. Lu Ming wanted to give one to Lu Yuntian. Also, Lu Ming wanted to help Li Ping cultivate martial arts. Only by cultivating martial arts could Li Ping's lifespan increase and live longer. Although Li Ping didn't have the talent for cultivation and was old, it wouldn't be a problem with Lu Ming's current means. With the help of the Nirvana pill, Li Ping could awaken her bloodline and cultivate to martial king or even spiritual sea in the future. There were also his two in-name disciples, Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Xiao. Ever since he took them in as disciples, Lu Ming had not taught them well. As a master, Lu Ming could be said to be very irresponsible. Therefore, he had to leave 2 Nirvana pills for them. In this way, there were only 3 Nirvana pills left. Lu Ming planned to keep them for now. Also, here's a secret technique that's suitable for you. 2 jade tokens flew out of Lu Ming's hand and flew to Yan Kuangtu and Fatty. After the 2 of them took a look, they were stunned again. Their eyes were wide open, and their mouths were wide open. Shocked, they were too shocked. This was because the secret technique in the jade token was the cultivation method of a pure spirit body. Lu Ming made a few copies. There's actually such a mysterious secret technique in the world. Yan Kuangtu sighed. At the same time, he was also moved. He had been stuck at the Supreme Realm for many years. Now that he had the Nirvana pills and a pure spirit body, he was confident that he would be able to break through to the ruler realm in less than a year. Ha, Lu Ming, you're really my lucky star. Fatty did not stand on ceremony and hurriedly put away the cultivation method of the pure spirit body. Lu Ming, thank you. Yan Kuangtu solemnly cupped his fists at Lu Ming. Big brother Yan, with our relationship, there's no need to thank me. Lu Ming smiled. After Yan Kuangtu and Fatty left, Lu Ming began to cultivate in seclusion with all his might. It was getting closer and closer to the 1-month deadline. Lu Ming wanted to improve his strength as much as possible during this period of time. Only a pure spirit body could improve his strength in a short period of time. Therefore, Lu Ming cultivated the pure spirit body with all his might. A large number of primordial stones were refined by Lu Ming and turned into the strength of his physical body. Finally, half a month later, the pure spirit body made another breakthrough and reached 60% maturity. Every time it increased by 10%, Lu Ming's strength would become stronger. At this time, there was still a week before the 1-month deadline. It's time to make a trip to the heaven-suppressing divine army. Lu Ming took a step forward and left the secret cultivation room. Chapter 1329. In the central continent near the northern plains, there was a boundless mountain range. This was where the Heaven Suppression Army was located. The headquarters of the Heaven Suppression Army wasn't originally here. However, in the battle a few months ago, the headquarters of the Heaven Suppression Army was defeated by the joint forces of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xia clan. They suffered heavy losses and could only retreat to this place. In front of them, there were many mountains that looked like divine swords. They rose from the ground and formed a barrier. Obviously, these mountains were pulled out from the ground by peerless experts. Between each sword-shaped mountain, there were huge chains that were connected to each other. On the chains and the mountain, there were dense inscriptions. Especially at the peak of each mountain, there were several huge arrow towers. Beside the arrow towers, there were powerhouses guarding. These arrow towers weren't ordinary arrow towers. They were built with origin stones as the foundation and were activated by experts in the martial Tao. Together with the formation, their power was boundless. They could even kill spiritual gods. Outside the sword-shaped mountain, the space cracked and 2 figures appeared. The Heaven Suppression Army is indeed not simple. They were able to build such a huge project in just a few months. Lu Ming looked ahead and sighed. The Heaven Suppression Army has been competing with the Xia clan for tens of thousands of years. They naturally have their reasons. Xia once said. Who is it? At this moment, a loud shout came from the sword-shaped mountain. Then, the sound of the air being torn apart resounded. A few figures appeared in front of Xiao Wan and Lu Ming. They were emitting powerful auras. Supremes. Lu Ming's heart shook. The three figures that appeared were all Supremes. Their powerful auras locked onto Lu Ming and Xiao Wan. You're the chaotic sky's sovereign, Xiao Wan. After the three of them glanced at Xiao Wan, their expressions changed drastically and they exclaimed. I have something to discuss with the 100 Battles Martial Emperor. Quickly pass the message. Xiao Wan said. Yes, please wait a moment. Facing an overlord like Xiao Wan, the Supremes didn't dare to be negligent. They quickly took out their voice transmission jade talismans and sent the message. Whoosh! 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 In just 10 minutes, a few rays of light rushed out from the depths of the sword-shaped mountain and appeared in front of Lu Ming and the others. Their auras were vast and unfathomable. They were all rulers. The aura of the leader was even more vast and powerful, far surpassing that of an ordinary martial emperor. It was the 100 Battles Martial Emperor that Lu Ming had seen before. Brother Xia, what brings you here? The 100 Battles Martial Emperor laughed and looked at Xiao Wan. Then, he shifted his gaze from Xiao Wan to Lu Ming. Following this, the 100 Battle Martial Emperor was startled as he said, You are Lu Ming? These words shocked the rest of the heaven-suppressing divine army. The young man in front of him was Lu Ming. Now, Lu Ming's reputation was like the sun in the sky. Being able to kill a martial emperor at such a young age and fight against a peak second-layer martial dominator realm expert. Such a genius had never appeared in the history of the divine desolate continent. Lu Ming's current combat strength was already at the pinnacle of the divine wilderness continent, an overlord of a region. How could the members of the divine army not be shocked? Junior Lu Ming greets the 100 Battles Martial Emperor. Lu Ming brought his fists together. Dispense with the formalities, dispense with the formalities. Little brother Lu, please dispense with the formalities. The 100 Battles Martial Emperor immediately waved his hand and said, It's an honor to have brother Lu and brother Xia here today. Come in. Lu Ming and Xiao Wan nodded their heads and followed the 100 Battles Martial Emperor and the others into the sword-shaped mountain. So many experts. As soon as they arrived at the sword-shaped mountain, they could see a mountain with a strong presence of qi and various buildings. Lu Ming could sense several powerful auras in the vast mountain. They were all experts. The heaven-suppressing divine army and some of their allies had gathered together, thus there were many experts. Moreover, there were many soldiers in iron armor patrolling the area. The military appearance was very strong. However, Lu Ming noticed something amiss among the soldiers, their morale was low. That's right, their morale was low. The heaven-suppressing divine army had suffered a crushing defeat not long ago. Even a few martial emperors had fallen, resulting in a great loss, thus their morale was low. The group arrived at a hall and took their seats. Not long after, more people arrived at the hall. They were the upper echelons of the heaven-suppressing divine army, who were at least 9 heaven supremes. There were even 9 martial emperors present. The heaven-suppressing divine army did not have that many martial emperors, as some of the other factions had formed an alliance with the heaven-suppressing divine army. Due to the current situation of the godly desolation continent, it was reasonable for them to gather together. I did not expect brother Lu and brother Xia to be here today. Come, let me give you a toast. The 100 Battles Martial Emperor raised his cup and emptied it in a straightforward manner. Lu Ming and Xiao Wan also symbolically drank a mouthful. The 100 Battles Martial Emperor took a sip of the wine with a smile on his face. He glanced at Lu Ming and Xiao Wan and changed the topic. If I'm not mistaken, you two are here for the sacred city in 7 days, right? That's right. Lu Ming said. The 100 Battles Martial Emperor went straight to the point, while Lu Ming did the same. Oh? I wonder what is your purpose for coming to the heaven-suppressing divine army? The 100 Battles Martial Emperor asked. Our purpose is simple. We want to invite the heaven-suppressing divine army to fight the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xia clan in 7 days at the sacred city. We want to decide the outcome of the battle. Lu Ming's voice was sonorous and forceful. What? Hearing this, the faces of the heaven-suppressing divine army changed drastically. The hall fell silent. After a long while, someone spoke. Fight the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xie clan? What a joke. Even if you join forces with us, you are still no match for the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xie clan. If you go, you will only be courting death. An armored martial emperor sneered. If we don't fight with them and wait for the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xie clan to form an alliance, the heaven-suppressing divine army and the northern plains will be the next ones to attack. At that time, we will still die. We will just be struggling at death's door for a few more days. Lu Ming replied with a cold smile. However, if we go to the sacred city in 7 days, we will die immediately. If we drag it out, we might have a chance. The armored martial emperor said. The other members of the heaven-suppressing divine army did not say anything. However, their eyes told Lu Ming that they had the same idea as the armored martial emperor. You are just afraid of De and the 2 experts beside him. Let us deal with them. You just have to deal with the Xie clan. What do you think? Lu Ming said. You can deal with the 3 experts. The 100-battle martial emperor looked doubtful. Obviously, he did not believe Su Quebec. You can deal with the 3 experts? Huh, do you think we are fools? I believe that the chaotic sky divine army can deal with one of them. However, who can deal with the other 2? Lu Ming, do you think you can? The armored martial emperor looked at Lu Ming with disdain. Even though it's said that you can fight against a cultivator of the 2nd Huang Qi layer, your opponent has an imperial weapon. Besides, the rumors are exaggerated. Can you really fight against a cultivator of the 2nd Huang Qi layer? Or do you really have the strength of an imperial weapon? The armored martial emperor sneered. Chapter 1330. Although it was rumored that Lu Ming's strength was unparalleled, allowing him to defeat a peak 2nd layer martial dominator realm expert, however, they did not believe it in their hearts. Especially when they saw that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the peak spiritual god realm. It was ridiculous for a peak spiritual god realm expert to defeat a peak 2nd layer martial dominator realm expert. In their opinion, the rumors were too exaggerated. Indeed, who would believe such a thing without witnessing it with their own eyes? So? Do you want to try? Lu Ming glanced at the armored martial dominator with a faint smile. That's right, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I don't believe a mere spiritual god can defeat a martial dominator realm expert. The armored martial dominator rose to his feet while his body emitted a strong battle intent. He was a battle-hungry man. Most of the people in the heaven-suppressing army were battle-hungry. Very well, let's fight outside. Lu Ming rose to his feet and took a step forward, appearing in the air outside the hall. He knew that the battle would not be so simple. If he did not show his strength, the heaven-suppressing army would not dare to place their bet on him. The armored martial dominator also flew out of the hall and arrived in the air, facing Lu Ming. Come, let's go and take a look. The rest of the people left the hall and stood in the air. The experts of the heaven-suppressing army also sensed the situation and rose into the air, glancing in Qin Nan's direction. Lu Ming, make your move. Show me what you got. The armored martial dominator's battle intent grew stronger. I'll make the first move. Sure, 3 moves. Lu Ming reached out 3 fingers and said, if you can withstand 3 moves from me without being defeated, I'll admit defeat. What? 3 moves? Lu Ming is so arrogant. Does he really possess the strength of a peak 2nd layer martial dominator realm expert? I don't believe it. Lu Ming's words caused an uproar among the crowd. The 100-battle martial dominator secretly glanced at Xiao Wan and saw him standing there with a calm smile on his face, as if he already knew the outcome. Could it be that Lu Ming is really as terrifying as the rumors say? The 100-battle martial dominator still found it hard to believe. Very well, let's see how you're going to defeat me in 3 moves. The armored martial dominator's eyes flickered with anger. Boom! A powerful aura exploded from his body. His vital chi was burning like a flame. His domain spread out and his muscles bulged. In an instant, he was wearing an armor and his strength was raised to the extreme. Although he didn't believe that Lu Ming was as exaggerated as the rumors said, there was no smoke without fire. When faced with Lu Ming, he still wouldn't be careless. Whoosh! Lu Ming used the primordial wind technique and his body flickered. He was like an illusion as he charged towards the armored martial emperor. At the same time, dragon roars resounded in the air as 9 streams of dragon force burst forth. Boom! Lu Ming punched out, and the faint image of the suppressing hell monument appeared on his fist. So strong! When Lu Ming punched out, the armored martial emperor's expression changed greatly. The power of this punch shocked him and made him feel an enormous pressure. The expressions of the Heaven Suppression Army watching the battle changed drastically. The might of this punch was too terrifying. It wasn't something that a spiritual god could execute at all, and it had reached the ruler realm. Block it! The armored martial emperor roared and punched out as well. 2 fists collided in the air. Boom! Shockwaves spread out in all directions. The domain covering the armored martial emperor's body trembled violently as if it would collapse at any time. Then, the armored martial emperor's face turned pale and his body flew backward with a bang. The Heaven Suppression Army gasped when they saw that the armored martial emperor had been sent flying with one punch. The armored martial emperor flew 100 miles before he could stabilize his body. Second move. Lu Ming said indifferently. He took a step forward and traveled 100 miles in an instant. At the same time, the third bloodline appeared on top of his head. A stream of energy flowed into Lu Ming's body, and Lu Ming's strength increased again. Boom! The second punch was punched out. Explosive breaking army fist. The armored martial emperor roared and his hair stood on end. He exerted all his strength and punched out. The 2 fists collided for the second time. However, this time, the armored martial emperor was in a more miserable state. His domain was instantly destroyed, and his body and arms made cracking sounds. He was sent flying far away and blood spurted out of his mouth. The second move had seriously injured the armored martial emperor. Do you want to come again? Lu Ming's cold voice could be heard. Again. The armored martial emperor roared. He was a martial emperor, and he could not allow himself to be defeated by Lu Ming in 3 moves. He had to survive 3 moves. Boom! The armored martial emperor's body swelled up. At the same time, a huge shield appeared in his hand. The domain covered the shield, and it looked indestructible. He took a defensive stance for this move. Third move. Lu Ming said. He stepped into the air and punched out for the 3rd time. Lu Ming did not use the hell-suppressing heaven skill for this punch. Instead, he used the intent realm martial technique. The fusion of 5 intent realm martial techniques. Now, the fusion of 5 intent realm martial techniques was more powerful than the hell-suppressing heaven skill. The main reason was that with the improvement of the hell-suppressing steel bloodline, the level of the hell-suppressing heaven skill had already surpassed the inferior divine-level martial technique. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, he could not exert the full power of the hell-suppressing heaven skill. When Lu Ming's cultivation broke through to the martial emperor realm, his true essence would be more abundant, and the power of the hell-suppressing heaven skill would naturally skyrocket. Clang! The punch landed on the armored martial emperor's shield. The shield was covered with the domain, but under the punch, the domain was like a bubble, instantly collapsing. The shield let out a violent roar, forming a sound wave that spread out and tore the space apart. Then, a shocking scene appeared. The shield was deformed. The place where Lu Ming's punch landed on was dented. The armored martial emperor's face changed drastically. Bang! The armored martial emperor could not hold the shield at all. The heavy shield was like a mountain, and it crashed into the armored martial emperor's body. Crackle! The armored martial emperor's body made a series of bone-breaking sounds. His body flew far away and fell to the ground. He vomited blood and could not move for a while. The armored martial emperor was defeated, completely defeated. Facing Lu Ming, he was crushed and had no power to resist. Gulp. Many people swallowed their saliva and looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of shock. They no longer doubted him. Lu Ming's combat strength could completely crush an ordinary martial emperor. It would not be too difficult for him to kill the armored martial emperor. Maybe the rumors were not exaggerated, and they were true. The people of the heaven-suppressing divine army changed their minds. Amazing, amazing. Little brother Lu is really unparalleled in the world, the first of all time. The 100 Battles martial emperor strode forward, his face full of admiration. However, the 100 Battles martial emperor changed his tone and said, "However, I still want to experience it. It's not that I doubt little brother Lu, but I have to be responsible for everyone in the heaven-suppressing divine army." The 100 Battles martial emperor stood in front of Lu Ming, his body emitting a powerful aura that was several times stronger than the armored martial emperor's. He was right. For the sake of the heaven-suppressing divine army, he had to know Lu Ming's combat strength clearly. Make your move. Chapter 1331. Fight. Without wasting any time, the 100 Battle martial emperor took a step forward and unleashed an invincible battle intent. With a wave of his hand, the heavens and earth crumbled. His strength was much stronger than the armor martial emperor's. The strength of a second-layer martial emperor was much stronger than a first-layer martial emperor. Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. He merged his 5 wills and threw out a punch. Bang! As the two fists collided, Lu Ming felt a tremendous force surging toward him. Lu Ming's body was knocked backward as the blood in his body churned. He could feel a piercing pain coming from his fist. Dong! Dong! The 100 Battle martial emperor stomped the ground and continued to charge toward Lu Ming like an invincible god of battle. The 100 Battle martial emperor was known as the 100 Battle martial emperor. He had walked out from countless battles and was extremely experienced in battle. His attacks were simple, but they were powerful enough to kill with a single strike. Roar! Lu Ming unleashed his 9 dragons bloodline and merged his bloodlines to fight against the 100 Battle martial emperor. Bang! 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 The two fought fiercely, from the ground to the sky, from the sky to the ground, and even to the alternate dimension. Lu Ming was at a disadvantage. He was no match for the 100 Battle martial emperor. Although the 100 Battle martial emperor's cultivation had not reached the peak of the second-layer martial emperor, he was at the mid-stage of the second-layer martial emperor. When Lu Ming executed the chaotic will, he could fight against a peak second-layer martial emperor. However, when he did not execute the chaotic will, his strength was weaker than the 100 Battle martial emperor's. In the blink of an eye, the two had exchanged more than 10 moves. Lu Ming, is this all you've got? How can the heaven-suppressing godly troop fight against the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xia clan with you? The 100 Battle martial emperor's voice could be heard. The Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace had formed an alliance with the Xia clan. Their next target would be the heaven-suppressing godly troop or the northern plains. How could the 100 Battle martial emperor not know this? However, if he wanted to fight against the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xia clan with Lu Ming and the others, he had to see hope. Lu Ming was his hope. If Lu Ming was as strong as the rumors said, why not take the risk? You want to see my full strength? There's no hurry. You can't beat me now. Lu Ming let out a long roar, the 9 dragon claws unceasingly striking out. The power of the 5 different wills was displayed to the extreme, and there were even signs of a breakthrough. Yes, Lu Ming's 5 types of martial skills were originally at the peak of the 4th level. He was only a sliver away from the 5th level. The 100 Battles martial monarch was a veteran of hundreds of battles. He was a very good target for tempering. After fighting with the 100 Battles martial monarch, Lu Ming's 5 types of martial techniques seemed to show signs of a breakthrough. Then let's see how long you can hide. The Baijian martial emperor shouted coldly as a long spear appeared in his hand. The long spear pierced through the air with incredible power. An ordinary level 1 martial emperor would be killed in 2 moves. The two of them crisscrossed, and in the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of moves. Clang! Suddenly, one of the 9 dragons' claws grabbed the tip of the spear, creating a metallic sound. The 9 dragons retreated, but the Emperor of the 100 Battles also retreated a few steps. Did your martial technique have a breakthrough? The 100 Battles martial monarch blurted out in disbelief. Ha ha ha, thanks for your help, allowing my martial technique to have a breakthrough. Lu Ming burst out laughing. The others were left speechless. Just a moment ago, Lu Ming's martial technique had a breakthrough during the battle with the 100 Battles martial monarch. Wasn't this talent a bit too insane? It's only a breakthrough, thus its power is still limited. The 100 Battles martial monarch's voice could be heard as he continued to attack Lu Ming. Is that so? Lu Ming let out a calm smile as he lashed out with his dragon claws. Clang! After exchanging another blow with the 100 Battles martial monarch, Lu Ming was knocked backward, but the 100 Battles martial monarch was knocked backward too. How is this possible? How is it possible that its power has improved so much? The 100 Battles martial monarch was in disbelief. Previously, Lu Ming had been completely suppressed by the 100 Battles martial monarch, thus he could only dodge the attacks. However, Lu Ming had only improved one of his martial techniques by a level. How was it possible that its power had improved so much? Little did he know that Lu Ming had not only improved one of his martial techniques, but 5 of them. Lu Ming had combined the 5 types of martial techniques. Therefore, when he broke through, the 5 types of martial techniques would break through at the same time. Naturally, the power would soar. Previously, the 100 Battles martial monarch had been no match against him, but now, he was able to stand his ground. Thank you, martial monarch. It's time for the battle to come to an end. Lu Ming said. Following this, a chaotic aura was emitted from the 9 dragons' bodies. Chaotic intent. Bang! The 9 dragons executed the hell-suppressing heavenly art and lashed out with their claws, which were surrounded by the chaotic intent. 100 Battles godly fist. The 100 Battles martial monarch withdrew his spear and executed his strongest attack. At that instant, the 100 Battles martial monarch threw out 100 punches. Each of the punches contained a tremendous power that could penetrate the ground and destroy mountains and rivers. 100 brilliant fist intents gathered in the air and merged into a single fist intent, causing its power to skyrocket. Bang! The fist intent collided with the 9 dragons' claws. However, as soon as they made contact, the fist intent of the 100 Battles martial emperor was shattered instantly, causing it to explode like fireworks. The dragon claws did not stop there, crushing the rift. Puff! The 100 Battles martial monarch spat out mouthfuls of blood as if he had been struck by lightning. His figure was sent flying for a few thousand li, leaving a long, dark tunnel behind him. He stared at Lu Ming in astonishment, before he spat out another mouthful of blood. The others did not fare any better. Leaving their jaws dropped. The 100 Battles martial monarch had been defeated. Was this Lu Ming's true strength? Too powerful. He had managed to injure the 100 Battles martial monarch with a single attack. His strength was comparable to a peak second-layer martial dominator realm cultivator. The rumors were not exaggerating at all. Martial monarch, do you still want to continue? Lu Ming's voice could be heard from the 9 dragons' mouth. That won't be necessary. The 100 Battles martial monarch let out a sigh and shook his head. Your strength is comparable to a peak second-layer martial dominator realm cultivator. Even I won't stand a chance against you at this rate. There's no need to embarrass yourself. Saying this, the 100 Battles martial monarch withdrew his aura. The 9 dragons shrunk while Lu Ming transformed into his true form. Well, well, well. An old voice could be heard all of a sudden, uttering 3 words in a row. Far away in the sky, an old man with a slender figure was walking through the air. The old man was extremely old. Most of his white hair had almost fallen out. His skin was dry, and his face was filled with wrinkles. However, the people of the heaven-suppressing army, including the 100 Battles Martial Monarch, immediately greeted the old man. "Greetings, Commander." "Commander." Lu Ming's eyes glistened as he inspected the old man with a stern look. Although the old man seemed to be quite old, Lu Ming did not dare to underestimate him. The reason being that Lu Ming could sense a terrifying aura inside the old man's body. Peak Second Layer Martial Dominator Realm. The old man was actually a peak Second Layer Martial Dominator Realm expert. I've long heard that the heaven-suppressing army has an old commander with an unparalleled strength, but I've never had the chance to meet him before. I finally get to meet him today. Xia Luan stepped forward and said with a smile. "Greetings, Martial Monarch of the Chaotic Sky." Chapter 1332. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. The Heaven Suppression Army was indeed not simple. There was still such an expert hiding in the dark. Such an expert had never appeared in any of the previous battles. If the Heaven Suppression Army was like this, then how could the Xia clan not have any hidden trump cards? The old general of the Heaven Suppression Army first bowed to Xia Luan before looking at Lu Ming. He revealed a warm smile and said, "Indeed, there are new talents in every generation. This old man admires little brother Lu's strength." "Old general, you are too polite." Lu Ming cupped his fists. "Emperor Luan, little brother Lu, this old man can give you a definite answer. The Heaven Suppression Army will definitely participate in the battle 7 days later," the old general said. Lu Ming and Xia Luan were overjoyed by his words. The old general's words meant that he had agreed to join forces with them to head to the Holy City 7 days later to fight the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xia clan. The 100 Battles Martial Emperor and the other experts of the Heaven Suppression Army were surprised, but they did not say anything. They also understood that the Heaven Suppression Army could not stay out of this battle. If the Northern Plains were defeated, the Heaven Suppression Army would not be able to escape the fate of destruction. Joining forces with the Northern Plains was their only chance. "All right. Old General, everyone, we will meet in 7 days. See you in 7 days." Lu Ming and Xia Luan said before taking their leave. The goal of this trip could be considered a success. After returning to the 100 Beast tribe, Lu Ming continued to cultivate in seclusion. Another 4 days later, there were only 3 days left before the alliance between the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xia clan. In a secret room, Lu Ming's glabella shone as the second body stepped out of Lu Ming's body. Following that, Lu Ming's main body waved his hand, and the mountain river diagram flew out and flew to the second body. The second body kept it. After that, the main body closed his eyes while the second body revealed a smile. "Let's head to the Holy City first." The second body smiled and took a step forward, disappearing from the place. After a while, the second body appeared billions of miles away from the 100 Beast tribe. Lu Ming's plan was to have his second body enter the Holy City first to gather information about Supreme Nine Yang, Bai Shijin, and the others. Lu Ming's consciousness sank into the second body. The second body was just like his main body. "Let's disguise ourselves first." Lu Ming took out a gray robe and put it on. At the same time, his figure and face began to change. Finally, he transformed into a sallow-faced youth. His appearance was very ordinary. He was the kind of person who would not be easily noticed in a crowd. Following this, inscription runes appeared on Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's aura began to converge until he was only a 7th-rank inscription master. Then he took a step forward. Space split open, and Lu Ming disappeared. Now that Ming Lian's second body had become a level 9 ruler, his speed was incredibly fast. In less than half a day, the Holy City appeared in front of him. There were experts guarding the gates of the Holy City. The checks were very strict. Everyone who entered had to go through strict checks. However, Lu Ming had inherited the legacy of the Heavenly Profound Saint. His inscription skills had reached perfection. He used an inscription array to conceal himself. Even an emperor would not be able to detect him. Lu Ming entered the holy city easily. There are so many people. Walking on the streets of the holy city, Lu Ming realized that there were more people coming and going than when he was in the holy city. It was normal. There were still a few days before the alliance ceremony between the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xia clan. Now, the Xia clan and their allies had all entered the holy city. Many of the forces under the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace had also come to the holy city. Naturally, the holy city was bustling. This evening, the Xia clan Xia Yan, Xia Zhen, and the other princes will be hosting a banquet at the Drunken Immortal Circle. All the young geniuses are welcome to attend. Lu Ming had just entered the holy city when he heard this news. Underworld child. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. In the end, only the underworld child, the unscrupulous monk, and the moonless bodhisattva had returned. However, Long Chen had not returned. No one knew what had happened. Lu Ming really wanted to know. Then the Drunken Immortal Circle will be bustling with noise and excitement this evening. We can't miss such a grand scene. Indeed. Back then, 12 top geniuses went to the Divine Ruins continent. In the end, only 3 of them returned. 2 of them were from the Western Desert. The Western Desert sage monk has always stayed out of things. In other words, the underworld child is now the top genius. That's right. The underworld child is destined to roam the divine wilderness in the future. That's why the Xia clan's princes specially invited the underworld child to a banquet to curry favor with him. Many people were discussing, and Lu Ming heard quite a bit of news. Lu Ming's lips curled into a mocking smile as he casually strolled on the streets. Soon, it was evening. Lu Ming headed for the Drunken Immortal Circle. The Drunken Immortal Circle was quite famous in the holy city. The environment inside was elegant and there was a place for experts to spar. Therefore, it had become a gathering place for martial experts. At the entrance of the Drunken Immortal Circle, there were many young elites coming and going. At the entrance, there were people checking, but they would only check casually before letting people in. After entering the Drunken Immortal Circle, Lin Fan came to an open space filled with tables and chairs. Many people had already taken their seats. Lu Ming scanned the place and saw many familiar faces. Many of them were second-grade and third-grade geniuses from some overlord forces. On the highest platform, Lu Ming saw even more familiar figures. Xia Yan, Xia Zhen, the Xia clan's princes, and the Sky Martial Sword faction's geniuses, Wu Qingkong. Previously, Lu Ming knew that the Sky Martial Sword faction had already submitted to the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. Therefore, Wu Qingkong and the others had also become part of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. The underworld child is here. Someone said. In the distance, a black-robed youth walked over with his hands behind his back. He exuded a domineering aura. This person was the underworld child. Whoosh! 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 Xia Yan, Xia Zhen, Wu Qingkong, and the others quickly flew into the sky to welcome the underworld child. Haha, I am honored that brother underworld child is here. Xia Yan laughed heartily. Not bad, not bad. Brother underworld child's presence brings light to my humble dwelling. Xia Zhen said, not to be outdone. Following which, the other geniuses started to flatter the underworld child. Currently, the underworld child was the #1 genius among the younger generation in the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, including the Xia clan. He was also the only overlord genius. His future was limitless. Naturally, they had to curry favor with him. You are all too polite. The underworld child said with his hands behind his back, looking high and mighty. Xia Zhen and the others did not mind. They welcomed the underworld child to the platform and started to flatter him again. The underworld child pursed his lips and pretended to be calm. Actually, he was enjoying it very much. He enjoyed this feeling very much. He was intoxicated by the feeling of being the moon surrounded by the stars. In the past, he was also the moon surrounded by the stars. As the overlord genius of the divine wilderness continent, he stood at the peak. However, there were more than 10 people who could compete with him. His presence was undoubtedly weakened. Chapter 1333. Now, in the entire divine wilderness mainland, the western desert doesn't care about worldly affairs. Among the younger generation, besides Lu Ming, Brother Ming is the best. Amidst the compliments, a voice suddenly sounded. The place fell silent. Lu Ming. It was as if the name Lu Ming had a magical power that made everyone shut up. Everyone looked at each other, but no one said a word. Lu Ming's name was like a huge mountain pressing down on everyone's hearts. He was in the same generation as them, but his current strength was enough to kill emperors and fight against peak second-layer martial emperors. He stood at the peak of the divine desolate continent and looked down on the world. Among his peers, no one could be compared to Lu Ming. The so-called geniuses here were far too inferior compared to Lu Ming. They were so far apart that they did not know how far apart they were. Underworld Child's face darkened, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The young man who had just spoken turned pale and broke out in cold sweat. He knew that he had said something wrong. He had wanted to flatter Underworld Child, but he had subconsciously used Lu Ming's name. Brother Ming, please forgive me. I didn't mean to, the young man quickly apologized and stammered. It would have been better if he hadn't explained himself. Underworld Child's face darkened even more. What an idiot. Get out of my way. Xia Zhen scolded, and the young man quickly left. Humph, although Lu Ming is strong, he doesn't know how to judge the situation. He won't live for long and will die eventually. When that time comes, who in the world will be able to compete with Brother Ming? Xia Zhen continued. Underworld Child's face turned slightly better after hearing this. That's right. Lu Ming won't live for long. He still wants to go against the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xia clan. He's courting death. Such a brainless person. Even if he has some fighting strength, he's still a brainless brute. In my opinion, he's too weak compared to Brother Ming. The others immediately flattered Underworld Child. A smile reappeared on Underworld Child's face. All of you are right. Actually, Lu Ming's talent is ordinary. He is just lucky and his combat ability is slightly stronger than mine. However, because of this, he is arrogant and condescending. Back when he was in the continent of God's ruins, he even dared to offend the elites of Yuanlu's celestial god sect. Such a brainless person will definitely have limited achievements. Even if he doesn't die in the divine wilderness continent, he will be killed by the experts of the celestial sect. Underworld Child said disdainfully. Brother Mingzi is right. Brother Ming is right. Another wave of compliments came from the others. Brother Ming, how about this little brother treat you to a good show? Xia Zhen said with a smile. Oh? What show is it? Underworld Child revealed an interested expression. Brother Ming, please wait a moment. Xia Zhen smiled, and then his voice spread far and wide, bring him here. Yes. Soon, a group of Emperor Dragon Guards led 10-odd people over. Sun Lin, Tai Xing, among the crowd, Lu Ming's eyes flashed coldly. The 10-odd people who were brought over were the law enforcement army that Lu Ming had met when he was in the sacred city. Tai Xing, the burly chimpanzee, Sun Lin, the Emperor Dragon Guard who had been transferred to the law enforcement army by Xia Zhen. At this moment, Tai Xing and the others were in a sorry state. Their auras were weak and their faces were pale. It was obvious that they had suffered serious injuries. Soon, Tai Xing and the others were brought to Xia Zhen. They are. Underworld Child was slightly stunned. He did not understand why Xia Zhen had brought 10-odd burly men over. Brother Ming, these people are very close to Lu Ming. They were Lu Ming's subordinates back then. Xia Zhen said. Xia Zhen, you are despicable and shameless. You want us to slander the commander? Dream on. Tai Xing roared. Shut up. What slander? Xia Zhen reprimanded with a cold gaze. I'll give you one more chance. Tell me, did Lu Ming use despicable means to kill others to cultivate his martial arts? Also, did he deliberately harm young girls to nourish his yang? Is that why his cultivation improved so quickly? You are his subordinates, so you should know very well. Let me remind you that you'd better think carefully before you speak. Don't forget what happened to your companions. Xia Zhen said coldly as his cold gaze swept over Tai Xing and the others' faces turned ugly. Some of them even looked terrified. Bullshit, don't even think about slandering the commander. The commander is a man of indomitable spirit. Why would he do such a thing? Tai Xing roared. That's right, why would the commander do such a thing? Don't even think about using us to ruin the commander's reputation. You killed so many of our brothers. The commander will definitely come back to avenge us. Someone else also shouted. In the crowd, Lu Ming's gaze turned even colder. He had a rough idea of what was going on. Lu Ming was on good terms with the law enforcement army. It was obvious that Xia Zhen had captured the law enforcement army and wanted to force them to slander Lu Ming, saying that Lu Ming was using evil methods to nourish his yang. That was why his cultivation improved so quickly. In this way, not only could he ruin Lu Ming's reputation, but he could also infuriate Lu Ming. In the alliance ceremony a few days later, Lu Ming would be more likely to appear and kill Lu Ming. However, the law enforcement army refused to comply. Moreover, according to the crowd's conversation, the other law enforcement army members had already been killed by Xia Zhen. There were only a dozen of them left. Damn it! Lu Ming's killing intent was as cold as a knife in his heart. Xia Zhen's face was extremely gloomy as he berated, I'll give you one more chance. Speak or not, die. Don't even think about it. I'd rather die than do such a despicable thing. Tai Xing roared. The others also glared at him, unafraid of death. They, the law enforcement army, had a low status in the imperial city and lived a miserable life. In order to survive, they had to curry favor from both sides, living without any dignity. It was Lu Ming who allowed them to hold their heads high. After Lu Ming joined the law enforcement army, they could finally hold their heads high. They could act as the law enforcement army on behalf of the sacred emperor, returning to the situation of 30,000 years ago when the law enforcement army intimidated the world. Therefore, they were extremely grateful to Lu Ming. Therefore, they couldn't slander Lu Ming. Xia Zhen, as a prince, you did such a despicable thing. You're a disgrace to the imperial family and the Xia family. Tai Xing continued to roar. Shut up. You're courting death. Xia Zhen was enraged. A battle knife appeared in his hand and he slashed at Tai Xing's neck. He brought Tai Xing and the others here to curry favor with the Nether Child, but he didn't expect Tai Xing and the others to bite him back, causing his reputation to suffer a blow. He wished he could chop Tai Xing and the others into pieces. The blade light was cold and as fast as lightning, slashing at Tai Xing. At this moment, Tai Xing's cultivation was sealed and his aura was weak. It was impossible for him to dodge. Tai Xing was about to die under Xia Zhen's blade. Whoosh! At this moment, a wine cup flew out from the crowd and collided with Xia Zhen's battle knife. Clang! Inscriptions flashed on the wine cup and collided with the battle knife. Buzz! Chapter 1334. Who is it? Xia Yan berated. At this moment, Xia Zhen finally reacted. His face flushed red as he crawled up from the ground. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he scanned his surroundings and roared, Who is it? Who is it? Who dares to attack me? Come out and die. Under everyone's gaze, Xia Zhen's battle blade was struck by a wine cup and he fell to the ground on his butt. This was undoubtedly a humiliating matter, causing Xia Zhen's murderous intent to reach its peak. Hee hee. A soft laugh came from the crowd as a youth with a sallow face stepped out. This youth was naturally Lu Ming. Although he didn't have a deep relationship with Tai Xing and the rest, they had still worked together for a period of time. Therefore, there was still some friendship between them. Moreover, Tai Xing and the rest were implicated because of him. How could Lu Ming sit by and do nothing? Just now, that wine cup was thrown by Lu Ming. As a prince, you actually did such a thing to slander others. How despicable and shameless. The ancient Saint dynasty only has itself to blame for coming to this stage. It's inevitable. Lu Ming sneered as he walked towards Xia Zhen step by step. How dare you? Impudent. You're courting death. Some of the princes of the Xia family scolded as they stared coldly at Lu Ming. Brat, how dare you interfere in my matters? Since you're here today, don't think of leaving. Xia Zhen's voice was cold as he waved his hand and said, attack, cripple his cultivation. Yes. 7 to 8 Imperial Dragon Guards flew out with all kinds of weapons unsheathed as they charged towards Lu Ming. However, the cultivation of these Imperial Dragon Guards was only at the 9th level of the Spirit Embryo realm. In Lu Ming's eyes, they weren't worth mentioning. Wang! On the ground, inscriptions suddenly shone as a huge array appeared. Within the array, dozens of long rods were condensed and smashed towards the Imperial Dragon Guards. Bam! Ah! Instantly, the sound of whips and blood-curdling screams filled the air. Those Imperial Dragon Guards did not have the slightest ability to fight back under the long rod strikes. In the blink of an eye, they were all whipped to the ground. Each of them was whipped a dozen times, and their flesh was lacerated. It was a tragic sight. Xia Zhen's face paled as he retreated. His cultivation was only at the 9th level of Spirit Embryo realm and wasn't much stronger than the Emperor Dragon Guards. Since Lu Ming could easily beat up 7 to 8 Emperor Dragon Guards, he naturally wasn't his match. Humph, so you're an inscription master. Xia Yan coldly snorted, his body exuding a powerful aura. Xia Yan was a second-rate genius, and his cultivation had broken through into the domain enlightened spirit god realm a long time ago. His combat strength was formidable, and he was countless times stronger than Xia Zhen. 10th Prince, this guy is audacious to the extreme. If he dares to make a move here, then in my opinion, he must have been sent here by Lu Ming. Allow me to kill him. A voice sounded behind Xia Yan. A young man stepped out and appeared in front of Xia Yan. Wu Qingkong. The #1 genius of the Sky Martial Sword sect, Wu Qingkong. Wu Qingkong is going to make a move. This guy is dead for sure. In recent years, Wu Qingkong's cultivation has become more and more terrifying. With him making a move, this guy is dead for sure. This guy is a fool. He dares to make a move here. It would be strange if he didn't die. Discussions broke out at the scene. Currently, there weren't many overlord geniuses left in the Divine Wilderness continent. Wu Qingkong was one of the strongest geniuses below the overlord geniuses. His current status was naturally extraordinary, and he was second only to the underworld child. With Brother Wu making a move, I'm relieved. Xia Yan said as he took 2 steps back. Kid, are you going to surrender or wait for me to make a move? 2 rays of light shot out from Wu Qingkong's eyes like 2 sharp swords. Wu Qingkong, you were beaten like a dog by Lu Ming time and time again. Instead of hiding and cultivating, you dare to come out and make a ruckus. Aren't you afraid of being beaten again? Lu Ming curled his lips and mocked. Shut up. You're courting death. Wu Qingkong was furious. Back then, he was beaten by Lu Ming time and time again. That was his dark history and shame. He would be furious if anyone mentioned it in front of him. I'll cut off your limbs and make you suffer a fate worse than death. Wu Qingkong roared as he unsheathed his battle sword. A terrifying sword chi slashed towards Lu Ming. How powerful! 3rd level spirit god. He's a 3rd level spirit god. Wu Qingkong has broken through to the 3rd level spirit god. Wu Qingkong's attack caused a commotion. A 3rd level spirit god. Apart from those overlord geniuses, no one could compete with him. In their hearts, Lu Ming was dead meat. After all, Lu Ming didn't look old. He was very young and belonged to the younger generation. However, they had never seen him before. Obviously, he wasn't famous. How strong could an unknown young man be to be able to fight with Wu Qingkong? Buzz! Inscriptions appeared in front of Lu Ming again. A formation appeared once more. It was exactly the same as the one that had beaten the Imperial Dragon Guards. A dozen long rods appeared and lashed towards Wu Qingkong. Clang! Sword Qi whistled and slashed through. The rods were cut in half. The sword Qi did not stop and continued to slash towards Lu Ming. Bam! 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 Lu Ming took a few steps forward. Inscriptions appeared on the ground and another formation appeared. Just like before, a dozen long rods appeared. However, the sword Qi swept through and the long rods were cut in half again. But immediately, another formation appeared, and another staff was formed. Ha, he's still using such a formation against Wu Qingkong. He's dead meat. That's all he has. How dare he be so arrogant here? He really doesn't know what's good for him. Someone sneered. Whoosh! Whoosh! Sword Qi whistled and the long rods were cut in half. Let's end this. Wu Qingkong roared and shook his battle sword. A sword radiance flashed and dozens of sword Qi slashed towards Lu Ming. Every ray of sword Qi was extremely powerful. That kid is dead meat. That was the thought that popped up in everyone's mind. However, Lu Ming remained calm as if he did not see the sword Qi. He took a step forward again. Buzz! 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 This time, more than a dozen spell formations appeared on the ground, all of which looked exactly the same as the first spell formation. All of them had long staffs. In total, there were hundreds of long rods lashing towards Wu Qingkong. So what if there are a lot of them? Break! Wu Qingkong shouted and his sword Qi grew stronger. However, in the next moment, his expression changed drastically. Originally, those long sticks were no different from withered branches in his eyes. With a single slash of his sword, he could easily cut them apart. However, this time around, when the sword Qi landed on the long sticks, clanging sounds rang out and sparks flew everywhere. However, those long sticks were completely undamaged. On the other hand, the sword Qi that he had sent out collapsed after being hit by the long rods. Break! Wu Qingkong's expression changed. He raised his cultivation to the maximum and slashed out with his battle sword. Clang! 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 However, his sword Qi was completely useless against those long rods. As the long rods swung down, his sword Qi was scattered. How could this be? Chapter 1335. Wu Qingkong panicked and was shocked. Without any hesitation, Wu Qingkong performed bloodline fusion and transformed into a battle sword. He slashed at the long sticks madly. Clang! Clang! The long sticks hit Wu Qingkong's battle sword. The battle sword shook violently. In just a few breaths, Wu Qingkong's battle sword collapsed and he returned to his human form. No! Wu Qingkong screamed in horror. He spat out blood and tried to escape. However, there were long rods all around him, sealing off all his escape routes. Hundreds of long sticks rained down on Wu Qingkong. The shadows of the sticks completely engulfed Wu Qingkong. Ah! Ah! A shrill scream resounded in the drunken immortal garden. Everyone who was watching the battle looked at each other in dismay. How could this be? The result was completely different from what they had expected. Wu Qingkong was the strongest genius below the giants. His cultivation had reached the third-level spirit god realm. How many people among the younger generation in the divine wilderness continent could defeat him? Moreover, it was Lu Ming, a brat who they did not know at all. It was a matter of killing him in one move. However, the result was completely out of everyone's expectations. Lu Ming had been using the same formation all along. However, wasn't that formation very weak at the beginning? It couldn't stop Wu Qingkong at all. Why did it suddenly become so strong later on? The power of those long rods increased by an unknown amount. Even Wu Qingkong found it difficult to block them. The shrill scream was still ringing. After 10 minutes, the hundreds of long sticks disappeared, revealing Wu Qingkong's figure. Miserable, it was too miserable. Everyone who saw Wu Qingkong's figure could not help but think of the word miserable in their minds. Wu Qingkong was lying on the ground like a dead dog. He had been beaten countless times. His clothes were in tatters and his body was full of scars. His face was swollen like a pig's head. His nose bridge was broken and all of his teeth were missing. His mouth was crooked. If no one said that he was Wu Qingkong, no one would have recognized him. Most importantly, Wu Qingkong's aura was extremely weak. His cultivation had been destroyed. The whip just now had destroyed Wu Qingkong's cultivation. Wu Qingkong had become a cripple. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air, their bodies cold. This was especially the case for some of the second and third-rate chosen. They couldn't help but back up and look at Lu Ming with serious expressions. Who was this person? Where did he come from? How could he be so strong? Moreover, this person practiced the Tao of inscription. In the divine wilderness continent, there were only a handful of geniuses who practiced the Tao of inscription. None of them could defeat Wu Qingkong. They racked their brains but still could not figure out who this person was. Could this person be Lu Ming? But he had never heard that Lu Ming had such deep attainments in the Tao of inscription. Who are you? Underworld Child's eyes were dark as he stared at Lu Ming. He wanted to see something from Lu Ming's expression, but he was disappointed. Lu Ming's face was very calm. He couldn't see anything. Who am I? You are not qualified to know. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Hee, how arrogant. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you defeated Wu Qingkong. I can kill Wu Qingkong with a flick of my finger. Underworld Child glanced at Wu Qingkong casually and smiled disdainfully. Bang! Underworld Child took a step forward and his aura surged crazily. Today was a banquet specially prepared for him. However, Lu Ming had attacked continuously, injuring Xie Zhen and crippling Wu Qingkong. This was a slap to Underworld Child's face. There was no way he would let Lu Ming leave alive. Underworld Child's aura grew stronger and stronger. 3rd level spiritual god, 4th level spiritual god, peak 4th level spiritual god. It didn't stop even after reaching the peak 4th level spiritual god. Boom! Underworld Child's aura had reached the 5th level spiritual god. Gasps could be heard at the scene. Underworld Child is indeed a magnate-level genius. His cultivation has reached the 5th level spiritual god realm. Underworld Child has awakened a 9th level divine bloodline. His combat strength is incomparably strong. A 5th level spiritual god can already kill a high-level spiritual god. This is too shocking. Underworld Child was surrounded by Underworld Chi. He smiled confidently and said, "Brat, I don't care who you are. Today, you will die." Swoosh! A pitch-black machete appeared in Underworld Child's hand. He pounced at Lu Ming and slashed his machete at Lu Ming. Lu Ming stood there motionlessly. This time, no inscription appeared and no array appeared. In an instant, Underworld Child's machete was about to land on Lu Ming's head. At this moment, Lu Ming extended 2 fingers and pointed at Underworld Child. Swoosh! A ray of sword chi appeared between Lu Ming's fingers. Poochie! Underworld Child's machete was easily cut in half. The sword chi continued to slash at Underworld Child. Not good. Underworld Child's expression changed drastically. He felt the threat of death from Lu Ming's sword chi. At this moment, his heart was trembling. Even his soul was trembling. Retreat, retreat, retreat. He roared in his heart and frantically retreated. At the same time, he used all his means to defend himself. But soon, he despaired. The sword chi in Lu Ming's fingers could cut through everything. Under everything, all of his defenses were cut through like tofu. Then, he felt a chill between his brows. In the next moment, he fell into boundless darkness and lost consciousness. What's going on? The surrounding onlookers were puzzled. At first, they saw Underworld Child attack Lu Ming. Then, they saw a ray of sword chi burst out from Lu Ming's fingers. Then, they saw Underworld Child frantically retreat. But after retreating a few meters, Underworld Child's body stopped. He stood there motionless. Many people were puzzled and did not understand what had happened. But immediately, everyone's eyes widened. Because at this moment, a bloody scar appeared between Underworld Child's brows. The scar quickly grew longer and longer. Then, everyone saw Underworld Child's body split in two. Dead. Underworld Child was dead. He was cut in half by a sword. How was this possible? Underworld Child's cultivation was at the 5th level of the spirit god realm. Moreover, he was a giant genius. With his combat strength, it would be easy for him to kill a 7th level spirit god. Such a genius was killed by Lu Ming's sword chi as easily as killing a chicken. How was this possible? How could Lu Ming be so strong? Who are you? Who are you? Xia Yan and Xia Zhen were so scared that their faces turned pale. They roared crazily. Lu Ming curled his lips slightly, and the sword chi in his fingers disappeared. This was a formation carved with his body. With his cultivation as an emperor, the formation carved by him was naturally terrifying. Using it to deal with Underworld Child was a waste of talent. Buzz! Inscriptions flashed under Lu Ming's feet. In the next moment, Lu Ming appeared in front of Xia Zhen. Ah, what are you trying to do? This is the holy city. What are you trying to do? Xia Zhen roared in fear. I'm going to search your soul. Lu Ming's indifferent voice sounded. He stretched out a finger and pointed at Xia Zhen's forehead. Chapter 1336. Lu Ming's finger tapped on Xia Zhen's forehead, and an inscription flashed. Xia Zhen's expression stiffened, and his gaze became unfocused as if he was in a daze. Lu Ming was using a powerful method to search Xia Zhen's soul. Inscribers had some methods that were even more bizarre and mysterious than martial artists. The soul-searching technique was obtained from the heavenly profound saint. Lu Ming wanted to find out the whereabouts of Supreme Nine Sons, Bai Shijin, and the others from Xia Zhen. Stop, you bastard! Kill! A few angry shouts could be heard and a few figures leaped across the air. As soon as their voices fell, a few terrifying attacks were launched toward Lu Ming. Experts from the Xia clan had arrived, and these people were all at the 7th level of the spirit god realm. Lu Ming did not move at all. However, a large array suddenly appeared in the sky. The large array glowed and condensed into a few battle swords. With a slash, a few 7th level spirit gods were killed in the air. So strong! In the drunken immortal garden, many young geniuses were trembling in their hearts. Lu Ming was too strong. Killing 7th level spirit gods was as easy as chopping vegetables. This person shouldn't be someone from the younger generation, but someone from the older generation who snuck in. Someone guessed. Apart from Lu Ming, they couldn't think of a second person in the younger generation who could be so powerful. However, this person was obviously an inscriber, so he shouldn't be Lu Ming. Therefore, many people guessed that this person should be someone from the older generation. No! At this moment, Lu Ming frowned. He realized that Xia Zhen didn't know the whereabouts of Supreme Nine Sons, Bai Shijin, and the others at all. Maybe Xia Zhen's cultivation is too low, so he doesn't have the right to know about this. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at Xia Yan in the next moment. Xia Yan was a second-grade prodigy. Apart from Xian Yanjuan, he was the strongest person in the younger generation of the Xia clan. Maybe he knew. Xia Yan's expression changed when Lu Ming's gaze landed on him. Without a second thought, he soared into the sky, intending to leave this place. However, Lu Ming gently waved his hand in the air, and dense inscriptions suddenly appeared above Xia Yan. A large formation appeared, condensing into chains that wrapped around Xia Yan. Xia Yan's cultivation was at the second level of the spirit god realm, but no matter how hard he tried, it was completely useless against the chains. Lu Ming released Xia Zhen and walked towards Xia Yan. Xia Zhen's eyes were still unfocused, as if he had lost his mind. Yes, Xia Zhen was already an idiot. Just now, when Lu Ming had searched his soul, he hadn't held back at all. He had used the most direct, most violent, and most barbaric method to search for what Lu Ming wanted. Therefore, Xia Zhen's soul had suffered an indelible injury. He had already lost his mind. Save me, save me. When Xia Yan saw Lu Ming walking towards him, he screamed in fear. You're courting death. How dare you act presumptuously in the holy city? Exterminate 9 generations of your family. In the distance, surging roars sounded out. More Xia clan experts had arrived. Swoosh! 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 At least a dozen experts charged over. Numerous terrifying auras shot out like smoke signals. The weakest aura was at the 9th level of the spirit god realm, and there was even a perfected spirit god realm expert. The strongest was shockingly a supreme realm expert. In an instant, a dozen experts appeared in the sky above the drunken immortal garden and launched an attack at Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand, and dense inscriptions appeared in the sky. They seemed to have a life of their own, and numerous large formations were condensed. Whoosh! 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 The large formation glowed and formed a few dozen thick chains that wrapped around the experts. After that, Lu Ming didn't even look at these people. He directly appeared before Xia Yan and pointed his finger at the space between Xia Yan's eyebrows. Soul search. Bang! 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 In the sky, explosions continued. The dozen experts joined forces, but they couldn't break through Xia Yan's defense. The dozens of chains seemed to have a life of their own as they waved and wrapped around the experts, causing them to be exhausted. Lu Ming pointed his finger at the space between Xia Yan's eyebrows. After about a dozen breaths, his eyes suddenly lit up. He found it. He found the whereabouts of Supreme 9 Sons and the others. In Xia Yan's memory, Supreme 9 Sons, Bai Shijin, and the others were imprisoned in the 9 underworlds. It was the 9 underworlds again. Back then, Xia Nianqing was imprisoned in the 9 underworlds, and Xia Luan was also rescued from the 9 underworlds. Looks like I have to make a trip to the 9 underworlds again. Lu Ming muttered, and his finger left the space between Xia Yan's eyebrows. Xia Yan collapsed on the ground like a pile of mud, panting heavily. His entire body was drenched in sweat. He didn't turn into an idiot like Xia Zhen. His cultivation was much stronger than Xia Zhen's. He had reached the 2nd level of the spirit god realm, and his soul was stable. Therefore, his soul wasn't damaged much. Whoosh! Lu Ming waved his hand. Inscriptions faintly flashed on his arm, and a ray of sword qi cut through the void. Puff! Puff! Those experts didn't even have time to scream before they were killed in the air by the sword qi. Huh, let's go. Lu Ming laughed and took a step forward. His figure suddenly disappeared without a trace. In the drunken immortal garden, many young geniuses looked at each other. Their eyes were still filled with shock. He was too strong. No matter what their cultivation was, he was killed in one move. Even Supremes were the same. A word appeared in everyone's mind. An emperor. Lu Ming was most likely an emperor in disguise. An emperor had sneaked into the holy city. Boom! Boom! In the depths of the holy city, a terrifying aura soared into the sky. A few figures appeared in the sky above the drunken immortal garden. The vast pressure made all the young people tremble, as if they were about to kneel down. Emperors. The few people who appeared later were all emperors. The few emperors spread out their spiritual senses to search for Lu Ming, but they couldn't find any trace of him. Search the entire city. Don't let anyone suspicious go. A ruler gave the order. Unfortunately, half a day had passed, and there was still no news of Lu Ming. Everything that happened in the drunken immortal garden had spread throughout the holy city. An unfamiliar young man first crippled Wu Qingkong, then killed the underworld child. What was even more terrifying was that even a supremes couldn't fight back in his hands. One of the emperors, Xie Zhen, became an idiot because of this person. When the news spread, it caused an uproar in the holy city. Many people knew that the northern plains, or the divine army, had begun to move. Everyone was guessing who this young man was. Some guessed that it was Lu Ming, because Lu Ming was most likely to sneak into the holy city to save Supreme Nine Yang and the others. But immediately, someone refuted, saying that this person cultivated the path of inscription and shouldn't be Lu Ming. Activate the divine secret instrument. In the end, the Xie family's higher-ups gave the order. The Xie family activated the divine secret instrument. Their target was Lu Ming. Finally, when the instrument was activated, they found that Lu Ming was still in the northern plains, not in the holy city. In the northern plains, in a secret room of the 100 Beast tribe, a projection of the divine secret instrument appeared above Lu Ming's main body. It seems that the divine secret instrument also has a weakness. It can only find my main body, but not my second body. Lu Ming's main body ended his cultivation, opened his eyes, and smiled. Seal. Chapter 1337. Just as the Xie clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace were searching for Lu Ming, Lu Ming's second body had already changed his appearance. Even his aura had changed. The Xie clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace could not find Lu Ming at all. Not far from the entrance of the 9 underworlds, a black-faced youth arrived. This black-faced youth was Lu Ming. The security is even tighter. Lu Ming watched from afar. The entrance of the 9 underworlds was even tighter than before. Not only were there more inscription formations, but there were also more experts guarding it. Lu Ming sensed carefully and sensed the auras of many primes. If I barge in now, I will alert the enemy. At that time, the Xie clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace will attack with all their might and block me inside. Not only will I not be able to save Senior Jiuyang and the others, but I will also be in danger. Lu Ming frowned as he thought of a countermeasure. On the day of the alliance, they will definitely send people to bring Senior Jiuyang and the others out. That will be the best time. After thinking for a while, Lu Ming had an idea. His figure flashed as he left this place. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, the day of the alliance between the Xie clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace arrived. The holy city was unprecedentedly lively. The experts of Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and Xie clan gathered in the holy city. In the eastern wilderness, outside 9 Dragon City, space suddenly split open, and a figure stepped out. It was Lu Ming. After so many years, Lu Ming returned to 9 Dragon City once again. Whoosh! Lu Ming stepped out and disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared in 9 Dragon City. The defenses of 9 Dragon City were meaningless to Lu Ming. Lu Ming stepped in the air, and the endless mountains and rivers of 9 Dragon City flashed under his feet. Soon, Lu Ming appeared in the depths of 9 Dragon City, at the dragon head of one of the dragon veins. Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. Lu Ming looked at the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron, which was as tall as a mountain. His goal for this trip was the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron. The Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron would definitely play a decisive role in this battle. Roar! The 9 Dragon bloodline appeared, and it roared toward the sky. Wang! As soon as the 9 Dragons bloodline appeared, the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron trembled, and the buzzing sound spread out for hundreds of thousands of miles. The Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron is moving. What's going on? Why is the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron, which has not moved since ancient times, moving again? The unusual movement of the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron attracted the attention of the people nearby. Many figures flew across the void and flew over at an extremely fast speed. What's that? A dragon? Ah! That's 9 dragons. Lu Ming. It's Lu Ming. What? Lu Ming dares to come here? Many people shouted in shock when they saw the 9 dragons. Some people who had experienced the Great Battle of Nine Dragons City were very familiar with Lu Ming's 9 dragons bloodline. They recognized the 9 dragons bloodline at a glance and immediately cried out in fright. Rise! Lu Ming was too lazy to pay attention to those people. He focused on controlling the 9 dragons bloodline and resonating with the divine 9 dragon cauldron. Wang! Buzz! The 9 dragon cauldron shook more and more violently. Eventually, it rose from the ground and flew towards Lu Ming, floating above Lu Ming's head. Divine 9 dragon cauldron, come here! Lu Ming shouted. The 9 dragons wrapped around the divine 9 dragon cauldron and a mysterious aura rushed out in all directions. Clang! Another dragon vein shook violently. The second divine 9 dragon cauldron moved and floated in the air, flying towards Lu Ming. Then, the third divine 9 dragon cauldron moved as well. Swoosh! Swoosh! The divine 9 dragon cauldron broke through the air. In the blink of an eye, there were 3 divine 9 dragon cauldrons floating above Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming, how dare you? Put down the divine 9 dragon cauldron. A few long roars came from afar. A few figures broke through the air and flew over. They were extremely fast. As soon as the voice sounded, they had already appeared above the dragon vein. The master of the Dongfang family, the master of the Kong family, Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. They were a few supremes. Some of them were old acquaintances. They were the masters of the other 6 ancient families. Lu Ming ignored them and continued to control the 9 dragons bloodline to summon the divine 9 dragon cauldron. The Supremes' faces turned ugly after being ignored by Lu Ming. Let's attack together. The Supremes exchanged glances and reached a consensus. Bang! 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 A few brilliant rays of light burst out and shot towards Lu Ming. The rays of light were beautiful but filled with murderous intent. Piss off! Lu Ming's eyes turned cold as he took a step forward. Bang! A terrifying force crushed the space and surged toward the few supreme beings. The attacks of the Supremes were as weak as tofu before this force. 2 of the 9 heaven Supremes even exploded and died on the spot. As for the masters of the 3 ancient families, they were sent flying for 1,000 miles and crashed into a dozen mountains. Blood spurted out from their mouths and their auras weakened. He killed 2 Supremes with 1 strike and severely injured the other 3. Such battle prowess was extremely shocking. In the distance, there was silence. No one dared to speak. Today, the experts of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace had all gone to the sacred city. Not a single sovereign was left behind. No one could stop Lu Ming. Is this Lu Ming's battle prowess? There were some young geniuses in the crowd. They were all on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness. Some of them had even competed with Lu Ming before. At this moment, they were looking at the figure on the dragon vein with dismay and shock. Back then, they were of the same generation and competed with each other. However, in just a few years, the distance between them and Lu Ming was already thousands of miles. There was no comparison at all. They knew that they would never be able to catch up to Lu Ming in this lifetime. Roar! The roar of the 9 dragons shook the sky. Clang! Clang! The divine 9 dragon cauldron kept vibrating. One after another, they flew towards Lu Ming. More and more divine 9 dragon cauldrons appeared above Lu Ming's head. 4 cauldrons, 5 cauldrons, 6 cauldrons, quick, spread the news. Someone in the 9 dragons city ordered. Whoosh! Whoosh! Voice transmission jade talismans flew out one after another. However, as soon as they flew out of the 9 dragon city, a light screen rose up and intercepted all the voice transmission jade talismans. Several figures stood in the void outside the 9 dragon city. Among them, there was a dean of the World Academy who cultivated the path of inscription. There were also 7 or 8 supremes who cultivated the path of inscription. They had already set up a barrier outside the 9-dragon city to intercept the voice transmission jade talismans. Lu Ming summoned more and more divine 9-dragon cauldrons. In the end, all 9 cauldrons were gathered and suspended above Lu Ming's head. "I'll lend it to you for a few days. After a few days, I'll let you return to where you came from," Lu Ming whispered. The 9 dragons opened their mouths and swallowed. All 9 divine 9-dragon cauldrons flew into the mouth of the 9 dragons' bloodline and disappeared. Roar! 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 At this moment, the 9-dragon bloodlines in the 9-dragon city went berserk. They were like 9 real dragons that wanted to break through the sky. Lu Ming's face was calm as if he had expected this. He waved his hand and 9 inscription talismans flew out from his storage ring. The 9 inscription talismans flew out and flew towards a dragon bloodline. Chapter 1338. Suppress. Lu Ming whispered. The 9 inscription talisman scrolls landed on the 9 dragon veins. The endless inscriptions seemed to be alive as they spread over the dragon veins, temporarily suppressing them. The 9 dragon veins temporarily returned to peace. According to ancient legends, the divine 9-dragon cauldron was refined by an ancient expert to suppress the 9 dragon veins. If the divine 9-dragon cauldron was gone for too long, the 9 dragon veins would definitely rebel. Lu Ming had already expected this, so he had asked his second body to refine the 9 inscription talisman scrolls to suppress the 9 dragon veins. Although it could only suppress them for a few days was enough. After the dragon veins calmed down, Lu Ming put away the 9 dragon veins and took a step forward. In the next moment, he appeared outside the 9-dragon city. "Rise!" The old dean of the World Academy shouted. The other supremes assisted, and a barrier appeared outside the 9-dragon city. This barrier was used to block the voice transmission jade talisman, so that DE would not know that Lu Ming had come here to take away the divine 9-dragon cauldron. After setting up the barrier, they set off with Lu Ming. Soon, they returned to the northern plains through the transborder teleportation array. "Let's go to the holy city." With the order, figures tore through the space and headed toward the holy city. At the same time, the experts of the divine army also set off toward the holy city. The holy city was bustling. Above the holy city, a platform appeared in the void. On it, there were real dragons and divine phoenixes flying and cheelants roaring. This was the platform used by the Xia family during the million-year sacrifice. Now, they were using it again. It showed how much importance the Xia family placed on this alliance ceremony. "The Holy Emperor has arrived." A voice rang out, spreading throughout the entire sacred city. In the depths of the palace, figures flew out one after another. Leading them was the current Holy Emperor, Xia Qitian. Besides Xia Qitian, there was a white-haired old man. He was the previous generation's Holy Emperor. Other than that, there were more than a dozen people. Each of them had a powerful aura and were all emperors. A small portion of them were from the Xia family. The rest were from the Xia family's alliance and the emperors of other overlords. Many experts landed on the platform. Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace's DE and the other emperors have arrived. Another shout rang out. Whoosh! 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 A group of experts flew over from afar and landed on the platform. The leader of the group was Emperor DE. Next to him were 2 old men. One of them was wearing a golden robe. He was the strong cultivator of the peak of the Second Emperor realm who had appeared at the World Academy. The other old man was wearing a long red robe. His aura was not any weaker than the golden-robed old man. Behind him, there were more than 10 other rulers following him. "Brother DE." Xia Qitian laughed and stepped forward to salute DE. "Brother Xia." DE bowed. To bring Xia Xia Jiu, bring Xia Xia. To bring Xia Xia Jiu, bring Xia Xia Qitian instructed. "Yes." To the to be to be. To the be to the to die. Is. Now. Calm. On. It. The entrance to the abyss of demons was to the north of the sacred city. After a while, they were far away from the center of the sacred city. When they were about to reach the entrance to the abyss of demons, at this moment, inscriptions appeared on Lu Ming's body. His figure almost disappeared and his aura was completely gone. Without a sound, Lu Ming appeared next to the person at the back. With a wave of his hand, that person did not even have time to react before Lu Ming put him into the mountain river diagram. Lu Ming's body wriggled rapidly. He looked exactly like that man. The emperor at the front seemed to have sensed something. He looked back, but he didn't find anything. That's strange. There was a fluctuation just now. The emperor frowned. He scanned the crowd with his spiritual consciousness, but he didn't find anything. He gave up and continued to fly forward. Lu Ming secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally sneaked in without anyone noticing. This was also because Lu Ming had mastered the path of inscription. It was very mysterious. At the same time, he had the help of the mountain river diagram. Otherwise, it would have been impossible. It wasn't easy to swap under the nose of an emperor. Soon, they arrived at the entrance to the abyss of demons. With the emperor leading the way, they naturally entered the abyss of demons smoothly. Looking at the familiar environment, Lu Ming sighed. He didn't expect to come to the abyss of demons again so soon. Xia Jiuyang and the others are suppressed in the abyss of demons' flames. Their cultivations are sealed, so they can't resist. But we still have to be careful. These people aren't simple. The leading emperor warned. He had a horse face. Lu Ming had never seen this emperor before, but it was obvious that he was the emperor of the Xia family. The Xia family indeed had a deep foundation. In the beginning, there were only 3 emperors in the Xia family, but it was obviously more than that. Who knew how many more emperors were hidden in the dark? Yes. The others responded. Okay. The horse-faced emperor nodded and led the group into the depths of the abyss of demons domain. Along the way, the horse-faced emperor released his emperor's aura. When the demon temple clan sensed it, they were almost scared to death and fled far away. Soon, they were hundreds of millions of miles deep into the abyss of demons domain. In front of them, a blazing heat could be felt. It was a volcano. This wasn't an ordinary volcano. The flames weren't ordinary flames, but the abyss of demons flames. When they stopped above the volcano, a strong murderous intent flashed in the depths of Lu Ming's eyes. This was because Lu Ming found a figure in each volcano. Lu Ming saw familiar figures. Supreme Nine Yang, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, there were a total of 5 people. Except for Supreme Nine Yang, the other 4 were all sovereigns of the Talisman Puppet sect. The 5 of them were each suppressed in a volcano. Their bodies were bound by chains and suspended in midair. Within the volcanoes, the pitch-black 9 underworlds devil flame danced and burned the 5 of them constantly. This kind of abyss of demons' flames wouldn't burn them to death immediately, but it would bring them endless pain. Moreover, the cultivation of Supreme Nine Yang and the other 4 had been sealed and they couldn't resist it. Lu Ming's eyes were as cold as a knife. Xia Jiuyang, today is the day of your death. The horse-faced emperor looked down at Xia Jiuyang and the others with a disdainful expression. Is that so? Your Xia clan and Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace won't be arrogant for long. When Lu Ming returns, it will be the day of your death. Xia Jiuyang, who was sitting in the volcano, looked up at the sky and said coldly. Lu Ming. Hee. The horse-faced emperor sneered and said with contempt, I don't mind telling you that Lu Ming has returned. What? Lu Ming has returned? Is it true? Zhongzi has returned? Chapter 1339. Hee, don't rejoice too early. Today is not only the day you die, but also Lu Ming. The horse-faced sovereign sneered. Lu Ming is also in your hands? Xia Jiuyang asked in a deep voice, a little worried. Not yet, but it will happen soon. The horse-faced sovereign smiled and continued, I heard that Lu Ming is a righteous person. If he knows that you are going to be executed today, will he rush to the sacred city to save you? As long as he comes, he will die. You, despicable. Despicable and shameless. You are using us. Don't even think about it. When Xia Zheoyang, Bai Shijin, and the others heard the horse-faced sovereign's words, how could they not know the conspiracy of the Xia family in Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace? They were obviously using them to lure Lu Ming over. Scream. No matter how loud you scream, it's useless. The horse-faced sovereign sneered. Seeing the anxious look on Xia Zheoyang and the others' faces, he felt extremely comfortable. At this moment, whoosh! Whoosh! In the distance, a series of violent air-rending sounds could be heard. Before the sound had died down, there were already figures appearing in the surroundings. The Masha clan. They were all members of the Masha clan. Each of them had a towering demonic aura as they stared coldly at the horse-faced sovereign and the others. The aura of these Masha clan members was extremely terrifying. They were stronger than any of the Masha clan members that Lu Ming had encountered before. The one leading them was exceptionally burly and had a towering demonic aura. The vast demonic aura was unfathomable. A demonic emperor. The one leading them was actually a demonic emperor, the sovereign of the Masha clan. The horse-faced sovereign's expression changed. Masha clan, what are you trying to do? The horse-faced sovereign shouted. Of course, we are here to kill you. The demonic emperor of the Masha clan said coldly. How dare you? Do you want to exterminate the clan? The horse-faced sovereign shouted. Exterminate the clan? If the Xia family could do that, my Masha clan would have been exterminated long ago. Would you be so kind as to spare us? The sovereign of the Masha clan mocked. Clang! Clang! At this moment, the sound of chains breaking could be heard from the bottom of the volcano. Immediately after, 5 powerful auras rushed out from 5 of the volcanoes, and 5 people rushed out of the volcanoes. It was Xia Zheoyang and the others. Xia Zheoyang's body was like a burning sun. The terrifying power of fire caused the temperature within tens of thousands of miles to rapidly rise. Emperor! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The 9 Suns sovereign had actually broken through to the Emperor realm. Now, he should be called the 9 Suns sovereign. Lu Ming was pleasantly surprised. From the looks of it, they were not trapped at all and had taken the initiative to rush out of the volcano. You! How did you escape? The horse-faced emperor was shocked. Of course, with my help. Now, all of you can stay here. The emperor of the Masha clan said, his voice filled with killing intent. Let's go and spread the news. The horse-faced ruler suddenly shouted and turned to leave. Stay! The devil emperor of the Masha clan had been staring at the horse-faced divine emperor for a long time. As soon as the horse-faced divine emperor moved, the devil emperor of the Masha clan moved as well. He clawed out a sharp claw light toward the horse-faced divine emperor. Kill! The other members of the Masha clan also rushed towards the Xia family. Boom! On the other side, Xia Zheoyang and the others had also made their move. Xia Zheoyang threw out a punch that was like a sun, blasting toward the horse-faced divine emperor. The horse-faced divine emperor was shocked and tried his best to dodge. He did not dare to take Xia Zheoyang's punch head-on at all. At the same time, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the other 2 also launched an attack on the Xia family. Inscriptions appeared and the killing formation shown. Bai Shijin and the other 3 attacked, and the void was filled with terrifying killing formations. In an instant, a few people were killed. Lu Ming did not immediately reveal his true face. Anyway, Xia Zheoyang and the others had the upper hand now, so he was not in a hurry. His figure swayed in the void, silently dodging some of the attacks. 9 Suns Divine Fist. The flames on Xia Zheoyang's body became more and more turbulent. Vaguely, there were even shadows of 9 suns that appeared around his body. He threw out a punch that was like an exploding sun, blocking all the escape routes of the horse-faced Divine Emperor. The horse-faced Divine Emperor had no choice but to fight back. Boom! The two of them exchanged a blow. The horse-faced Divine Emperor's body shook violently, and he kept retreating. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He was no match for Xia Zheoyang at all. As soon as he retreated, the Masha clan's Divine Emperor's attack arrived. He could only desperately resist. The people brought by the horse-faced Divine Emperor were killed one after another. None of them could escape. Run, I must escape. The horse-faced Divine Emperor roared in his heart. His true ether seemed to be burning, and his domain covered his body. He blocked Xia Zheoyang's attack head-on. Although he spat out a large mouthful of blood and his body was almost burnt, he successfully rushed out of the encirclement and flew frantically toward the exit of the 9 underworlds. Oh no, we can't let him escape. Xia Zheoyang hurriedly chased after him. The Masha clan's Divine Emperor also quickly chased after him. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and his figure disappeared from the crowd in a flash. Oh no, one of them escaped. Bai Shijin and Du Songjue's faces changed. The horse-faced Divine Emperor's speed was astonishing. At this time, he was running for his life, so he could be said to be extraordinary. In an instant, he traveled 1,000 miles. However, before he could escape 100,000 miles, inscriptions suddenly flickered in front of him, and a large formation appeared. In the large formation, 8 huge chains appeared and wrapped around the horse-faced Divine Emperor. Break! The horse-faced Divine Emperor's expression changed. He blasted a move at the chains, but his attack only caused a vibration and did not break the chains. How could this be? The horse-faced Divine Emperor was shocked. Even he could not break it. This large formation was obviously set up by a Divine Emperor. How could there be another Divine Emperor stopping him? In the next moment, a figure appeared and blocked in front of the horse-faced Divine Emperor. Zhao Pe, it's you. No, you're not Zhao Pe. The horse-faced Divine Emperor was stunned at first, then he roared angrily. He was very familiar with Zhao Pe. It was impossible for him to set up a large formation that even he could not break. This person was not Zhao Pe at all. Whoosh! Whoosh! Behind him, Xia Zheoyang and the Masha clan's Divine Emperor had already caught up. Get lost! The horse-faced Divine Emperor roared and wanted to rush over from the other side, but there was also a large formation there. Chains covered the sky and blocked the horse-faced Divine Emperor. At this moment, Xia Zheoyang and the Divine Emperor of the Masha clan had caught up and surrounded the horse-faced Divine Emperor. Damn it! Who are you? The horse-faced Divine Emperor roared and stared at Lu Ming with killing intent. He wanted nothing more than to tear Lu Ming into pieces. If Lu Ming had not blocked him, he would definitely be able to escape. Xia Zheoyang and the Divine Emperor of the Masha clan also looked at Lu Ming curiously. Isn't Lu Ming with the horse-faced Divine Emperor? I didn't expect him to be able to stop the horse-faced Divine Emperor. What's more, he's clearly a Divine Emperor. If he's an enemy, it won't be good. Didn't you mention me just now? Lu Ming smiled, and then the shape of his face began to change, returning to his original appearance. You're Lu Ming. Chapter 1340. The horse-faced Emperor's eyes widened as he stared at Lu Ming in disbelief. Lu Ming, it's actually Lu Ming. When did Lu Ming sneak in? You were here at that time. The horse-faced Emperor remembered that when they were about to reach the entrance of the demon realm, he felt a slight fluctuation. When he checked, he did not find any traces. He thought that he was hallucinating, but now it seemed that Lu Ming had sneaked in at that time. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a corpse flew out. It was Zhao Pe. Lu Ming, why are you here? The most surprised person was none other than Xia Zheoyang. He looked at Lu Ming in surprise and disbelief. He could not believe that Lu Ming would appear here. What was even more unbelievable was Lu Ming's cultivation base. The auras emitted from Lu Ming's body were the aura of a level 9 inscriber and a ruler. Lu Ming has already broken through to become a ruler. No matter how much he valued Lu Ming, he still found it hard to believe. It had only been a short while, but Lu Ming had already broken through to become a ruler. Senior Jiuyang, how have you been? Lu Ming smiled. Lu Ming, you shouldn't have come. Xia Jiuyang thought of something and sighed. Let's kill this person first. Lu Ming looked at the horse-faced emperor. You want to kill me? Don't even think about it. Lu Ming, you're going deep into the holy city today. You'll definitely die. The horse-faced emperor roared and soared into the sky, wanting to escape from the sky. You won't be able to escape. Lu Ming said softly. At the same time, his body lit up, and a large formation appeared. Lu Ming stretched out 2 fingers, using them as a sword and slashing out. A sword chi appeared out of thin air and soared into the sky, slashing toward the horse-faced emperor. The horse-faced emperor was shocked and tried his best to resist. However, his domain could not withstand a single blow from the sword chi and was split open. The sword chi did not stop and continued to slash toward the horse-faced emperor. The horse-faced emperor screamed in pain as his body was split into 2 halves. The horse-faced emperor had fallen. This scene was witnessed by Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and a few other Masha clan experts who had caught up to them. Immediately, gasps could be heard from all of them. He killed a ruler with a single sword. What kind of combat power was that? Not only Bai Shijin and the others, but Xia Jiuyang and the emperor were also dumbfounded. Emperor Lu Ming Emperor's face was calm. Ming Lian's second body had just broken through to become a ruler, but his combat power could not be calculated with common sense. Engraving the second body and cultivating the Tao of engraving, each level was perfect, and each level had to have 10 spirit lamps lit. Besides, his second body had inherited the inheritance of the heavenly arcana saint, who was a martial sage. Lu Ming's second body was astonishingly powerful, be it in terms of the control of mental strength or the inscription array that he had mastered. The killing formation he had carved in his body was even more powerful. Therefore, even though Immortal's second body had just become a martial emperor, his combat power was on par with his main body. He could easily fight against a peak second-layer martial emperor. With his strength, killing an ordinary first-layer martial dominator would be a piece of cake. Zong! Zongzi! Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others stammered as they stared at Lu Ming. They were speechless, as if they were dreaming. It was already incredible enough to see Lu Ming here. Moreover, Lu Ming's combat power was even more incredible. It was no wonder that they were stunned for a while. Senior Bai, Senior Du. Lu Ming smiled and brought his fists together to greet them. Zongzi, Zongzi, it's really you. You've become a LV9 inscriber. Ha, that's great, that's great. Our talisman puppet sect finally has a LV9 inscriber. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others trembled in excitement and almost burst into tears. Lu Ming, why are you here? De and the Xia clan are trying to lure you here. Xia Jiuyang suddenly spoke, causing Bai Shijin and the others' hearts to skip a beat. Their expressions changed and the joy in their hearts disappeared. What was left was only worry. I know that. However, we still don't know who will win today. Then, Lu Ming briefly explained his plan to her. Alright, seniors, let's go out now. Lu Ming said. No. Suddenly, a voice was heard. It was the Masha clan's emperor. Why? Lu Ming looked at the Masha clan's emperor and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The Masha clan's emperor's expression changed. He was a little afraid of Lu Ming, but he still gritted his teeth and pointed at Xia Jiuyang and the others. They can't leave. This is the condition they agreed to. Condition? Lu Ming frowned. Lu Ming, it's like this, Xia Jiuyang immediately explained. It turned out that Xia Jiuyang and the others were able to escape because of the condition they had agreed to with the Masha clan. Xia Jiuyang and Bai Shijin had agreed to join the Masha clan and help them fight against the Xia clan for 500 years. In return, the Masha clan would remove the seal on Xia Zhuoyang and the others. That was why the previous scene had happened. Lu Ming roughly understood what had happened after listening to the explanation. The Mo Sha clan had been trapped by the Xia family, and they had been constantly sending people to hunt them down. The overall strength of the Mo Sha clan wasn't as strong as the Xia family, so they could only hide in the demon area of the netherworld. The Masha clan had their eyes on Xia Zhuoyang and the others' strength. As long as Xia Zhuoyang and the others joined the Masha clan, their strength would increase greatly. They would have more confidence to fight against the Xia clan in the future, and the Masha clan's days would be better. After thinking about it, Lu Ming smiled and said, "So it's because of this. The Masha clan will never regain their freedom if you keep on defending like this. You've heard that I'm going to fight against the Xia clan. This is a chance for the Masha clan. Why don't you come with me? As long as the Xia clan is destroyed, the Masha clan will regain their freedom forever." Lu Ming's voice was full of temptation. The look in the Masha clan's emperor's eyes changed. He seemed to be tempted, but in the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Although you're strong, the Xia clan has a strong foundation. If you fight against the Xia clan, you'll only die." Apparently, the emperor of the Masha clan didn't believe that Lu Ming could fight against the Xia family. Divine Emperor of Chaos Sky, Ciel Wan. I believe you know him. He's my ally. I was the one who saved him from the 9 underworlds. Lu Ming's heart stirred as he said. What? Ciel Wan is your ally? Will you be participating in this battle as well? The Masha clan's emperor's eyes lit up. Not bad. Lu Ming nodded. Why should I believe you? He had to be careful because this was related to the survival of the Masha clan. Following Lu Ming to the final battle was equivalent to putting the fate of the Masha clan on the line. Do you believe her? Lu Ming's glabella glowed, and Xie Nianxing walked out from it. Lu Ming.